Well, hello there, my spooky friends. You are loving these ghost stories, and I'm all about it. New year, time for some new ghost stories, told by nurses, and they're the best because they're true. Okay, so let's dive right in. So, Man Nurse 2018 says, so I work in a very old aged care home. I get everything from doors in my face to full-blown figures walking around. The one that gets me is I had a resident die right in my arms as I was assisting them to the toilet. And sometimes when I pass her room, I can still smell her breath on my face. Yeah, I believe that. I had a situation like that where I was the first one on the scene in assisted living and did mouth to mouth because I just couldn't wait for the equipment. And I understand death hung around me for I don't know, days. It was horrendous. So yeah, that was a story. Okay, Men Below, I don't know how you pronounce that. I've worked in plenty of nursing homes where I've seen things I couldn't explain. Stuff falling randomly or seen things out of the corner of my eye or heard voices. Specifically, I remember an agency CNA leaving early because she claimed she saw a man go into an unoccupied room and she was terrified. Or patients talk to people who aren't there. More specifically, other patients who have already passed away. Well, that's scary. One nursing home had the time clock in the basement, and as third shift, we all refused to go down alone to clock in because of the stories we had heard about the place being a former orphanage. At orientation, they told us a ghost story of two little girls who died of sickness, and they got claims of people hearing giggling near the locker room down the hall from the time clock. We all used time correction sheets or went down and clocked in as a group. Wow. Yeah, it had to be serious for that. I don't know if it's ever been that bad where I worked, but yeah, the basement. I don't like basements anyway. They're spooky. Okay, Saline Drip IV says, my old unit had Susie. Call lights in empty rooms, giggling or whispering on the floor, doors opening or closing without a nearby window or obvious draft, coffee mugs, never tea, seemingly vanishing in the blink of an eye and reappearing later in a different location on the unit. Susie wasn't evil by no way. If something fishy was happening, sternly but quietly saying, no, Susie, stop that, seemingly helped. But if you yelled or swore at Susie, you might not find your coffee mug for a week. Or the charts you just put down, right there. We were pretty sure that Susie was a child. Mostly well-behaved, just always up to shenanigans. We all liked Susie, even though no one knows why she specifically targeted our beloved coffee. Edit. No one had a clue how Susie ended up with us. Our unit had never really cared for pediatric patients. So what do you think? It makes you wonder, was there a house that used to stand there or a cemetery or something? But, you know, I guess Susie could be worse. She just likes pranks. All right, Moody Berry says, one of my coworkers is very spiritual. The one beat down elevator on our unit, she says, holds a little boy ghost and says hello to him if the elevator does not work. After she says the hello, the elevator will begin to work. I don't know. Would you do that? If an elevator didn't yell, hello? I don't know. If it works, you got to get up. You got to get to a different floor. I don't know. All right. Duckface08 says, for the long time we had a room that we all swore was haunted or cursed. Patients would randomly go sour there, like all of a sudden go into VT or develop a brain bleed. The only patient I knew of whose ribs broke and punctured his heart after CPR was also in that room. The nursing cart in that room would randomly lock and unlock without anyone touching it. Once a nurse was in the room with the lights off and the lights turned on their own. There was a closet next to that room where some nurses would go and take a nap on night shifts. One nurse was laying there just scrolling through TikTok or whatever when a pack of gauze randomly fell off the shelf and onto her. No one was around and no other disturbances that would have knocked over the gauze. The last few years, though, that room has been pretty quiet. Wow. I don't know. What would you think if, gauze fell on your head? It could have an explanation, I guess. But yeah, there are definitely some rooms at times that seem to have a weird vibe. Let's just say that. And it seems like that a lot of people do have problems in those rooms. So, have y'all ever experienced that? Tactical Merce 509 says, my last travel assignment was at an older hospital. They converted an old patient room into a med room, and I was busy going over medications for the night when all of a sudden the cabinets were opening like somebody was actively looking for something. I got goosebumps, but I was having such a bad night, I said out loud, I can't find stuff either. And then everything just sort of stopped. I was a bit freaked out, but the spooky feeling vanished. Maybe we became homies. I don't know. Yeah, wow. I don't know. If I was sitting in a room and the cabinet doors started just, opening and closing, I think I'd get goosebumps too. But yeah, you made a new friend, for the afterlife. I don't know. That is a cool story. Princess Shelby says, I used to work in this locked memory care wing of an assisted living. This one resident hated me for some reason. Maybe I looked like someone from her past. One day she yelled that she was going to haunt me when she died. Then she unexpectedly died a few days later. I was working the evening shift and the lady died around 5 p.m. We had to wait for the funeral home for a few hours to come pick her up. The creepy part was that her call light kept turning on. I replaced the cord thinking she had somehow tampered with it, but it kept going off. We assessed that lady so many times, but she was very much so dead. My coworkers and I would just stand there and watch the light above her door turn on over and over. After the funeral home finally came to pick her up, the call light stopped going off. Yeah, I guess she wasn't kidding. She haunted you. That happens sometimes. A patient just doesn't like you. You do remind them of someone, I think. That's it. You can be the nicest and it happens. So, that's a little eerie. Wandering Possum Queen says, my first nursing job was on a unit that was reopening for a different purpose after renovation. It was the top floor of the hospital, and the elevator facing the nurses' station would open and close all night at random. The doors would stay open until someone acknowledged the elevator by saying, "Hi, Georgie." The unit was only ever half full, and nobody liked walking to the supply closet alone. The one time I did, I saw a tall, dark shape lying in a room I knew was empty. I did not go closer to investigate. Another night, a patient who was completely alert and oriented rang her call bell to ask us to please make these kids stop playing in my bathroom. That is when I finally went to my preceptor and the senior nurses, what is going on in our unit. They explained that it had briefly been an isolation unit for AIDS patients back in the 80s and had been a PEDS unit at different points before and after that. I never did figure out exactly who Georgie was. I wonder where they came up with the name Georgie. Interesting. What do you think about that one? All right, let's do one more. Okay, this one comes from TW4 Center for... okay. I worked at a long-term care facility. Several patients with dementia would talk about a young boy bouncing a red ball at the end of one of the hallways. They passed away. But afterwards, a patient mentioned hearing a bouncing sound coming from the hall in the middle of the night. He died a few days after. Another lady said she saw a little boy with a red ball, and she died in a week as well. I worked there for 5 years. Wow. That is, it's one thing to see dark shadows and things like that, but seeing a little boy with a red ball really makes you want to, investigate and see what used to be there, or I don't know. So what did you think of that? I have at least one story that was submitted by you, but hey, if you have a ghost story, or especially if you are in the medical field and you want to share it, please comment below, or you can send me an email, and I would love to read nothing but just viewers. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Happy New Year. I hope 2023 is wonderful for you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.